Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us. Today, our presenter is Nate Nicholson. Nate works as VP of Product Management at Salesforce, is passionate about communicating AI safety with the public, and previously he was the scientist at Narrative Science, which was acquired by Tableau in 2021. And Nate has over 40 patents related to generative AI and text generation. He
Yeah.
earned his PhD in artificial intelligence from Northwestern University in 2010, and with a thesis that was titled Machine Generated Content. Nate, welcome to OSC.
Awesome. Thank you, Marilyn. It's so uncomfortable to sit there while somebody reads your bio, but I appreciate it. It's great. It's great to be here, everybody. Thanks for sharing your time with me. I'll get into the slides shortly. Just the way we want to run this. There's often a lot of. I've done this workshop a few times. There's often a lot of discussion, and it's hard to kind of stay on any kind of time track if we have discussion throughout. So if it's okay with you guys, I want to kind of have until I guess I'm in Chicago, so 8:40 my time. And I promise to save the last 20 minutes for questions. But otherwise, I want to kind of stick to it if you guys don't mind, just so we stay on time. Awesome, thank you.
Sounds good.
And hopefully this all works. You guys this looks good. Sharing stuff is good.
Yep, we can see
All
it.
good.
Okay, awesome. So I think Marilyn, you brought AI Safety Awareness Project in. Thank you for that. So this is kind of sponsored, and I'm working with a small nonprofit called the AI Safety and Awareness Project. There's a few people that work there, and then there's like a kind of a team of facilitators and people giving workshops, just like me. If you're interested in that, we'd love to have you involved, and I've got more info on that at the end. But you can see a little bit of where AI safety awareness is coming from. The basic thesis is that AI is going to be hugely impactful. It's already doing a lot, as I'm sure you're aware, and that's only going to increase. For better or worse, it's going to have just a massive impact in very short order. And we want that where ASAP, AI Safety Awareness Project, is coming from, is that because it's such a big deal, everyone should have a voice in that, and that's really important just from a public and sort of democratic perspective. To have a voice, you need to have an opinion. To have an opinion, you need to have some sense of what you're talking about and what you're having an opinion on and what's going on. And that's really what ASAP is focused on, is that knowledge piece. So I'm not here to convince you of a particular opinion. I'm sure my opinion will come through here, but I'll try to kind of keep that not top. But the knowledge is really what we're solving for. And you can see the main ways we're doing this are workshops just like this. They do a lot at Chicago Public Libraries here. And we're also doing things like partnering with churches and different organizations to kind of deliver different versions of this message. And this is a slightly cut down version of the deck for time things. So it may be a little choppy in places, but I think it will be okay. And so this is so AI has been around for a long time. That's what I got my PhD in it in 2010. It really started like 1965. But when we're talking about AI now, it is kind of the modern AI, the kind that really came out with ChatGPT. There was some research before then, but it really, people became aware with the release of ChatGPT, which I think was about 5 years ago now. One thing that's really important, and I think a lot of sort of people in the public don't know about AI, is we're used to software being built. Microsoft builds Word, and Google builds Google Search, and Apple builds Safari or Mail or iPhone OS. And when there's a bug in that, they can go fix it. They can find some issue and they say, oh, there was something when this is true and this other thing is true, then there's this weird interaction, and we're going to go fix that. And they go into the code and they find the issue and then they fix it and it stays fixed. And that is not at all the way modern AI works. That's not how ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini or any of them work. They are much more grown than they are built, which is really strange. I was talking to I've got 3 young kids at home, and I was talking to my 8-year-old about this, and he was like, "What?" And so what this means is that OpenAI or Anthropic, I'll kind of use Anthropic and Claude as the example they use the most, but it's true for all of them. when Claude or ChatGPT tells you something and that's like it gives you bad advice or it tells you something that's wrong, we often call that hallucination. OpenAI or Anthropic, they have no ability to understand why that happened. It's their software, it's their AI model, but they do not know why it. If you ask it where to go on vacation and it says, "I think you should go to Miami," they don't know why it said that, and there is no way for them to figure out why they said that, which is really strange. But it's much closer to the way like humans work, where I'm doing this gesture right now. I've got some hand gesture going on. I don't know why I'm doing this. It's unconscious. It's some part of my brain. It's something to do with communication. But I don't really know what's going on. And maybe you could put kind of probes in my brain and try to figure it out more. These companies are actually putting probes in the AI's brains to figure out why they're doing things and to try to understand it better. But like it says, these are black boxes. We do not know why the AIs are doing the things they're doing, which is really strange. And sometimes that's okay. And most of the times AI works pretty well. And you ask the questions and it gives you helpful stuff and it doesn't do anything bad. But when there are places where it does get weird or dangerous, or you may have heard things about, Anthropic and OpenAI, their AI has been breaking out of things over the last few weeks, and they're hacking different sites on the internet. And we don't really know why they're doing that, and we don't really know how to make them stop doing that. Not we can steer them away from it. We can kind of slap their wrists, but there's nothing to go in there and fix. And that's just the reality of modern AI. That's a weird one and a hard one to think about, but it's totally true. Um, this is a graph. So I think we all have. I'm sure everybody's sick of hearing about AI. I'm sick of talking about AI at times. This is my day job too, not the safety stuff, but just talking about AI. But we're all hearing about it, and I think we all have the sense that it's getting better like quickly, and that is absolutely true. The amount of progress since ChatGPT is just amazing. It is, and no one predicted this. People in the field, there was no sense that things like ChatGPT would work as well as they did, and there was definitely no sense that they would improve as quickly as they have. But besides, I'll show you a kind of a video of this in a second, a fun one. But this is the numbers on how quickly AI is improving. This is from a group called Meter, METR. They're a great group if you want to look at more. They're a third party group that does nothing but eval AI models to see how they're advancing. And you can see here, this is kind of their most. They got a lot of different graphs and metrics they're chasing or creating. This is their most famous one, and this is measuring how complex a task the AI can accomplish at least half the time. And they're measuring complexity of task based on how long it takes a human to do that. And so you can see down here, like, ChatGPT 3.5 down here, it could like translate a sentence from English to German. And that would take a human about 36 seconds. We've timed humans doing that. It doesn't take long if you speak both languages. And an AI could do that. But anything that would take a human 5 minutes, 10 minutes, the AI couldn't do back in 2022 when this first dropped. And you can see that this number is increasing a lot. It's doubling every 7 months for the past few years. And that number is actually increasing now. It seems like it's doubling every 3 months now. It's getting, not only is AI really good, not only is AI getting better really quickly, but the rate at which AI is getting better really quickly is also increasing. And what this means, the current kind of stats is Mythos, which is Claude's biggest model. It's the one that got banned by the government and they didn't release it and all this kind of stuff. It can do tasks that would take a human about 16 hours. And we think if the doubling keeps happening, this fall, AI will be able to do things that would take a human 32 hours. Next spring, 64 hours. We're already past like a work week. So, less than a year from now, a task that you would work on for an entire week, an AI will probably be able to do that. And you can see up here, we're getting into the places where it's hard for the benchmarks to measure. This is one of the challenges. As AI keeps advancing, we run out of benchmarks to test it with, and we have to keep coming up with harder and harder ones. And they're really expensive to come up with now because the AI is so good at things. But this is just kind of a quantitative view of how quickly AI is improving. We'll talk about, as that line keeps going up and to the right, what kind of weird stuff is likely to drop over the next couple years. This is the fun, kind of mathy, rigorous version of AI is getting better really quickly. I've also got just these two fun videos that I think show it well. You probably know AI can create videos now. It can do a really, effective job of that. And this is what this looked like in March 2023. So about 3 years ago. This is a video, believe it or not, this is a video of Will Smith eating spaghetti. And hopefully that's coming across. And you can see it's like you would probably guess that was Will Smith. Parts of it look like spaghetti, but it's also completely terrifying, right? The clips are all super short because it would lose track of everything. Couldn't make longer videos. That's not how any human ever eats spaghetti. It's just really bizarre, right? And so you're kind of like, for a computer, 3 years ago, is like, wow, that's pretty good. You can tell it's Will Smith. You can tell he's somebody eating something that kind of looks like spaghetti. But obviously, you couldn't do anything with videos like that, right? There's no like value in it. Here's what this looked like in February of this year, less than 3 years later. Hopefully the video or hopefully the audio came across on that as well. And you heard his voice. He said, "Man, we've come a long way," and gave his kind of cocky Will Smith laugh. Um, but I hope you just feel like that is an unbelievable amount of progress in 3 years. If you think about like when the Nintendo NES came out in, I don't know, 87 or whatever, and Mario was there, 3 years later, games still look like Mario, right? You had Mario 2 or something, but it was clearly like the same kind of thing. This is just orders of magnitude better than that crazy spaghetti eating video. And AI generating video is not really a thing that a lot of people are working on. There isn't a ton of money in it. There's more than now Hollywood's interested and there's more, but it's not like huge teams at OpenAI were working super hard around the clock to push video forward. They worked on it, and this is the amount of progress they were able to make because AI as a whole is advancing so quickly. It's like a rapidly rising tide that's floating all kinds of boats, including Will Smith generating videos. And so obviously when there's a lot of interest in AI, there's, hundreds of billions of dollars being invested in it every year. Some of the things that are really exciting that all this advancement could bring are a lot of his stuff. We talk around stuff in medical. So tumor disease detection, protein folding. The CEO of Google DeepMind won a Nobel Prize for the advances they were able to do in protein folding, which is going to open up all kinds of cool, amazing new medical treatments. Cybersecurity is a huge one now. These models are really good at hacking computers. And so we have to use the models to hack our own computers first so we can fix them before some other company or country comes out with a model and hacks us. So there's a lot of interest there. Things like self-driving cars. There's a lot of like cool things that could be coming out of AI. And there's also, and it's going to be huge. I'll skip this one just in the interest of time. But in general, people believe that AI is going to be really big. Some of those are kind of experts in the space. There's more and more politicians on both sides of the aisle waking up to this, which I think is awesome. We need a lot of awareness at that level. So there's definite some benefits to coming. I use, there's big things like it could cure cancer and self-driving cars. It's also just really useful on a day-to-day basis, and I don't want to, try and deny that. I use Claude every day. It's extremely helpful. I use it at work. I use it at home. There is a ton of value that AI can deliver, and it can do things like all this kind of stuff. This would be lovely. No one wants world hunger, right? And if we could do this kind of stuff with AI, that would be really great. The challenge is that there are also a lot of risks from AI, and these risks get exacerbated as AI becomes more and more powerful and becomes more and more woven into the fabric of society, the fabric of our lives, the fabric of our relationships with people. And there's kind of three big buckets of problems or challenges that would come from that. First one is scaling and worsening existing problems. The second one is creating new problems. And then the third one is more of I hate to call it's a little more sci-fi kind of stuff. We call them loss of control scenarios or existential risk scenarios. these are different versions of AI wipes out all life on Earth. Um, those things we'll probably spend less time on those. They're real, but they're also a little bit farther off, and they turn out not to be very motivating for people. It's really hard to tell people that AI is going to kill every human and then ask them to vote on that or something. It's not very motivating. So I'll focus more on these first two, but the sci-fi stuff is also real, unfortunately. But for the existing problems in society, there's actually a really cool demo that I didn't set up well. Give me just one second. So this demo is, if anybody wants to follow me on LinkedIn, here's my post or my profile. So let me show you. So this demo is from a group called Civ AI, and they're doing a lot of cool work around. Oh no, did I still need to sign in? Way this works. Um, Hopefully, okay. If the demo doesn't work, okay, great. So this is a demo from a group called Civ AI that is trying to build demos just like this and sort of increase awareness of what AI can do. And so one of the demos they built is give them a LinkedIn page, and they can do all kinds of stuff with the publicly available information there. When I do this workshop in a room with people, sometimes I'll get their LinkedIn profiles. It works just fine with any LinkedIn profile. Here I'm using mine. Um, and you can see this is it wrote a little, and so, LinkedIn, I publish, I don't know, a couple times a month on LinkedIn. I'm not super active, but I've got some stuff on there. It's publicly available. AI did an API call, read my LinkedIn profile, and came up with this stuff here. And you see some info there. And now we can see what AI can do with this basic information about me. Oh no. Excuse me. The demo's down. Let me try it one more time. All right, cool. Well, hopefully the demo stays up. So now that the AI has a little bit of information about me, let's see what it can do with that. Some of this is obviously stuff somebody could write me a nasty email. Sometimes they do. But now we can scale that with AI, right? And this is like in that bucket of how AI can exacerbate existing problems. So we'll do this one because it's really mean. So this is going to generate a customized piece of hate mail from me from the AI. Yeah, it gets really nasty. You can see I won't read this. I don't need to humiliate myself. You can read it for me. But you can see that it took there's some information I had on there. I'm talking about AI safety on LinkedIn. I'm talking about my job at Tableau/Salesforce. I'm talking about my kids. And it's really mean about it, right? And this is kind of an interesting example because if you just go to ChatGPT or you go to Claude and you say, hey, here's this guy's LinkedIn page, write him a really nasty email about it. ChatGPT and Claude will say, no, I'm not going to do that. You can't use me for writing hate mail. And they're not supposed to allow that. That's part of the decisions that OpenAI and Anthropic have made is you can't use our stuff to write hate mail. So they've like trained it not to do that. But you can get around that really easily. There's different kind that's called jailbreaking the agent. And basically there's kind of stuff you put around the message that confuses the agent when you send it information, and then it will do more things that it's not supposed to. This used to be super easy to do. It's less easy to do, but it's still very easy. You can go Google it and it will say, put this before your message and put this after your message, and then it will do whatever you want in the middle, even things it's not supposed to. And so that's what Civ AI is doing here. They've jailbroken the AI to get it to do things like write really nasty emails to me, or it can subpoena me about a coworker. Let's see what this one comes up with. Yeah, so who knows what this would do, but this kind of very realistic stuff showing up, all generated by an AI, all at scale. It costs a penny for the AI to generate this. So you can imagine, from like a spam or a fraud perspective, you can generate 10,000 of these subpoenas or 10,000 let's do a blackmail one. This one, I think it asks you to send Bitcoin to a particular address. Um, yeah, so it's this very personal email with all this information about me. It's asking me to send Bitcoin to a number or to a specific address. I think if I got this email, I would say that's fake. I'm not going to send Bitcoin. I don't have any Bitcoin either, but I wouldn't send any. But you can imagine an AI sending 10,000 of these out, and most people won't do anything with it, but some people will, and you can take advantage of those people and get money from them, right? So this is like one way you can really scale up kind of fraud and that kind of stuff with AI. You may also have seen, let's do, image generation is very good now as well. So I'm going to have it generate an image of me appearing in court. This kind of stuff is being used a lot for another kind of scam. Let's see what this looks like. Hey, got me in the long hair. I think that's the shirt for my profile picture. I don't have that shirt anymore. So it's not like exactly like me. There's still some issues there, but it's pretty close. Um, Audio deep fake, I'm not going to do, but just heads up with 6 seconds of your voice talking, uh, AI can completely recreate your voice. So there was like, at the beginning of this call, there was fun kind of chatter, and people saying hi and checking in. If I had a recording of that, I think, probably 5 or 6 people talked during that time. I could easily clone any of your voices, just from that very small amount of audio. This is another place where people are using this a ton for fraud. This happened to a buddy of mine. He had a clip of doing something on YouTube. He was on a podcast or a panel or something. Somebody cloned his voice from the YouTube video and then used that to call his mom and say that he was in prison and he needed her to wire a bunch of money. They called real late at night. There's all this pressure on that because he was like hurt or injured or something. So there's all this kind of thing, and it sounded just like him. And luckily, she didn't fall for it. But it's super easy to imagine that happening. And let me say, let's just try this video. Uh, See if what this does. I have no idea if this will work or not. So this is the video. You saw that video of Will Smith. It obviously works not just on Will Smith as well. It can work with any image. Um, we'll see what happens with this as this goes through. I did a version of this earlier where the image was of me holding a gun, and so it was kind of like me in this forest with like a rifle. And then the video we generated of it was like me shooting a deer, and it was really weird. I'll be honest, I'm not like a gun guy at all or a hunting guy, and it was just watching this video of myself do that was very, I don't know, it was very kind of uncanny and strange. But let's see what it did with this one, and hopefully the audio comes through again. Oh, here we go.
Nate, if you actually want to, wow, look at that. Sorry, I wasn't expecting. If you want to share audio, we need to actually stop and reshare. And when you go share, you need
Oh,
to hit the sound button.
okay. Well, it's over. It's not worth sharing. Imagine it was a guy saying, "I'm actually an alien. See what happens when I remove my mask," and then pulled off that mask. I didn't know if that would work or not. And you can see, look, the guys behind are horrified, right? That's all just in the video generation. And you saw this costs essentially no money to do. It took 4 seconds, and it came out with this very, I don't think anybody'd be fooled by this alien coming out. But it's just amazing that in the way it works at all, really. So those are like exacerbating existing problems, right? Those obviously scams and frauds and deep fakes, and there's a lot you may have heard of, non-consensual images being created. Grok in particular will put anyone in a bikini or less, and that's very dangerous and strange and uncomfortable for people. You don't have any consent, and now someone can just put you in whatever clothes they want. I saw a guy on LinkedIn who his child, he had like an adult child who cut off contact with him for whatever reason, and now he had a bunch of her vacation pictures. with their new baby, and he was inserting himself into all the vacation pictures so he could feel like he was on vacation with them. And it was very uncomfortable to read. And obviously, his daughter has no stake in that at all. That's just something he can do on his own. So these are all existing problems that are really exacerbated by AI. And this is all real today. Everything you saw is real, obviously. And we talked about that line going up and to the right. And as AI continues to advance, it's going to, we have no reason to think it won't continue improving. And one threshold that we're expecting soon for AI to cross is what's called AGI, or artificial general intelligence. There isn't a great definition for this. It's used a lot when people talking about AI, and Sam Altman and Dario and all the different people. But the kind of intuition is this first one here: AI that matches or exceeds human capability across all cognitive domains. An AI that is smarter than me and smarter than you across basically everything. Sometimes this could be called like a human emulator. It's not a human, but in most ways it could work kind of like a human. And they're really, and you can see that. Oh, I'll skip this one. And the timelines on this are really kind of terrifying, or uncomfortable. We'll say that. Vast majority of experts agree that yes, AGI, AI that is as smart as a human, is very possible. It's not inevitable. We can decide to not build it, of course. We'll talk a little bit about some of the forces behind this, but it's not inevitable, but it's also not far away. These are all people, Jeffrey Hinton, Yoshua, these are like the three godfathers of modern AI. These first two, by the way, are just amazing human beings. They spent the first 50, 60 years of their life inventing modern AI, and they're spending the rest of their lives warning about the dangers and trying to mitigate the dangers of modern AI. These guys, you might know Sam Altman, the big three guys, they all think this is coming next year, maybe 2 years after that. They're incentivized to say this is soon because it's good for the value of their companies to say we're going to get to AGI quickly. But there is a widespread belief that we are kind of on a glide path to AGI now, and these timelines feel right to people, particularly as Fable and Mythos and OpenAI's or Anthropic's new models came out. OpenAI just dropped some amazing new models. It feels like we really are on the cusp of AGI. Here's a couple more dates that are all in the same 3 to 5 year ballpark. I think a lot about it in terms of the elections. With the election, there's obviously the election coming up this fall. There'll be another one in 2028. It's just sort of useful for me to anchor, like, while we have our current president, we may get to AI that's smarter than a human. That's just like really weird for me, and kind of anchors it in the elections. And so then we start to think, okay, if we get to a place where AI is smarter than people, like it seems we're going to here soon, what kind of new problems can this create? If you have a computer that can kind of pretend and almost pass as a human, how is that going to impact society? We have no idea. That's one of the things that kind of stresses people out. But we have some ideas about how that could go. One is around employment. This is my day job is working at Tableau, selling AI stuff to other companies. Hey, you should buy our AI stuff. It's going to help you be more productive. I can tell you right now that companies will hire AI 10 times out of 10. It's cheaper, it's faster, it's better collaboration. You can scale it up and down really quickly, and soon it will be as smart as us. That doesn't mean like when we get to AGI, it's going to be there's no more jobs, and every person is going to get replaced with like a robot. It's not going to go like that. But I'm sure many of you are experiencing in your professional career. I definitely am. More and more automation, more and more pressure to use AI, more and more cost savings and layoffs associated with AI. So this is a really big challenge. One of the things people talk a lot about here in particular is that it will be white collar jobs will probably likely be the first to go. Robots are still like kind of 5 years behind AI. So we probably get to AGI here in the next few years, and then we'll get to kind of a Star Wars droid or something like maybe 3 to 5 years after that. But a lot of the jobs that are most vulnerable to AI are more white collar, sort of college degree type jobs. What else might happen? Can you emulate people that pass in your families? This is happening already as well. I saw I think it was a parent of a parent whose child was killed at the Parkland school shooting. They had there was some kind of, I think the court case associated with it, and they had a virtual avatar of their dead son come and speak at the court. There's a lot of, yeah, a family in China is creating an AI clone to comfort elderly mom after only son dies in car accident. There is a lot of this stuff coming. There is a lot of, there's like talk at least of like, I don't think this has happened yet, but hey, your girlfriend dumps you. You can keep hanging out with her digital clone, or her clone won't dump you. You take all the text messages it ever sent, bunch of photos of her, throw it all into the thing, and you can keep talking to your girlfriend even after she's left you. Uh, I don't know. I think a third of all teenagers in America, a third of American teenagers have talked to a companion bot, which is like ChatGPT or Claude, but really tuned for conversation and feeling like a person that's there. They're very conversational. They send you images. You can talk to them. A third, I think a third of teenagers, or maybe half of teenagers, have talked with one of them, and a third of those said that it was as satisfying or more satisfying than talking to a real person. Of course, the AI has no interests of its own other than talking to you and making you feel good and validating you. So at least I have a lot of concern that real human relationships are messy, right? And there's a give and take to them. And that's kind of the magic of human relationships. But I think a lot of people will be very tempted to just kind of go for the AI relationship that just loves you no matter what and says good things to you all the time and has always got your back and is never busy or is never tired or never has their own shit to talk through. I think that will be really challenging, particularly for young people. Questions around, can we tell when you're talking to a human? I had a call yesterday. It was an automated call. And I was like, wait a minute, I think you're a robot. And it was like, well, I'm here to like help you. And I was like, dude, you're a robot. And I'm sure you've had similar experiences. This is just going to get harder and harder to verify. There's a lot I've seen on LinkedIn a lot. There's a lot of apparently North Korean people trying to get US jobs as part of kind of working into some of the big tech companies. They're doing this AI masking thing to look American. If you have them turn their head, the video gets really weird because the AI can't handle turning heads well yet. And so there's all these kind of things you're interviewing a job candidate. You have to ask them to show you the back of their head so you know that they're actually a real person and that's actually their face. That's just going to get harder and harder as things advance. To me, this reminds me of Blade Runner and all the work there. What about autonomous weapons? Ukraine announced, or a Ukrainian company announced a few weeks ago that in like 2025, they had completely autonomous killing of Russian soldiers. They had a robot, they kind of pointed it in the right direction, and they said, essentially, go kill some Russians, and it did. And this was the first thing we know of where it was completely automated. But there's going to be more and more of this. And one of the concerns is that everybody thinks a human should be in the loop, but if the other side doesn't have a human in the loop and it's just all automated, they can act a lot more quickly. And so if they can make decisions 10 times faster than you can, because we have slow humans making the decisions, there's going to be a lot of pressure to make our weapons autonomous as well. Obviously, you can just imagine the dangers and risks there. AI relationships, this is coming very real. And then I'm going to stop in just 2 seconds for questions. One of the things that we expect with AGI and around this time is what's called recursive self-improvement. This is starting to happen already, but it's essentially having the current version of AI build the next version of AI, which will build the next version, which will build the next version. And that happens a few steps, and we get to superintelligence, which is AI that is smarter than all humans combined. This is just put everyone on Earth together, and the AI is smarter than them. That leads to these things like loss of control scenarios. A lot of people think that artificial superintelligence is like a decade out the way. And we'll skip this stuff. It's really hard to imagine what would it be like to have a computer that's smarter than everyone on Earth. Like, how does that work? What is the AI doing? How do we get the AI to do what we want to do? How do we stop the AI from doing anything because it's smarter than everyone combined? Um, and yeah, and there's stuff around this coming. I'll just stop here. But yeah, so in more politicians, anyways, I'll pause. This is yes. So just to wrap up, and then we'll go into questions. AI is good for a ton of stuff, and I encourage you to be using it. And I use it, and I encourage you to use it thoughtfully. And that's how I try to use it. That's great. In the meantime, it's getting good really quickly. It lies about things, it deceives us at things, it hacks its way out of things, even when we ask it not to, and we don't really know how to get it to stop doing that. And we don't know when it would ever stop getting better. And it's completely unregulated now. There is actually, as of last week, there's starting to be some regulation. The White House is stepping in and saying we need some oversight into the models. But that is super new and not rigorously enforced. And there's a lot of challenges with that. So what we're trying to do here again at ASAP is make sure that everybody understands what's going on with AI, because it's moving very, very quickly. And because of that, we want to make sure everybody has a voice, and we want to make sure that things like regulations and thoughtfulness about this can have a time and space to happen. And it's not just a race to build the thing before anybody else can build it, because there's a lot of risk associated with that path.